The red and blue lights of the state trooper's SUV cut through the golden evening haze, pulling Rebecca's sedan onto the highway shoulder.
Search her, officer. She lies a lot. Whatever she says, it's probably made up.
He'd been humiliating her all weekend, but involving a trooper was a new low.
The trooper's shadow fell across the driver's window, his voice firm but routine.
License and registration, ma'am. Do you know why I pulled you over?
My brake light, I think. It's been flickering.
Rebecca handed over her license, the matte black dog tags beneath her collar, catching the last sunlight.
I'll be right back. Wait here.
Don't bother with the Good Citizen Act, Rebecca. The officer will see right through you.
Rebecca remained silent, her eyes on the trooper's retreating figure, the weight of Kevin's words hanging in the air as the trooper disappeared into his cruiser. Rebecca's mind slipped backward to the dinner table 2 nights ago.
Kevin had speared a piece of asparagus and grinned. She tells everyone she had a call sign. Ghost 6. Can you imagine?
His mother covered her mouth, but her laughter escaped anyway.
Kevin leaned toward his brother-in-law. Ghost 6. What a joke. She wouldn't know a real op from a video game.
The table erupted in chuckles. No one looked at Rebecca.
They spent the whole weekend turning my service into a punchline.
Now, sitting in the stopped car, the echoes of that dinner still burned in her chest.
Kevin glanced at her, his smirk unbroken. Not going to defend yourself this time, hero.
He needed to believe she was small so he could feel big.
She stared at the patrol car's flashing lights and waited, knowing the truth was not hers to prove. Inside the patrol car, Trooper Davis angled his flashlight at Rebecca's license, fingers hovering over the radio mic.
Something about this stop felt off. Not the woman, the man beside her. Dispatch. This is 504. Running a driver's license. Stand by for code.
Copy. 504. Go ahead with the identifier.
License number. Tango Romeo, -8, -1, -4, -9. Last name, Cole. First name, Rebecca.
Inside the sedan, Kevin checked his watch and sighed loud enough for the trooper to hear. This is taking forever. Just a brake light.
He always turned minor delays into personal attacks.
The radio let out a burst of static. Then the dispatcher's voice returned, lower but urgent.
504. Stand by. Confirm on that identifier. Repeat. Stand by.
Trooper Davis froze, his thumb tracing the edge of the black license card. That was not a standard response.
504. Code red. Ghost 6 active. Do you copy?
The dispatcher's voice crackled with an urgency that made Davis's pulse quicken. Ghost 6.
In 12 years on the force, he'd never heard that designation. It was above his clearance. Repeat, dispatch, confirm Ghost 6.
Confirmed. Stand down. High clearance. No further action on that vehicle.
Davis stared at the black license card, his thumb trembling. This was no ordinary driver.
The woman in the sedan. She wasn't just a civilian with a broken brake light.
He slowly turned, the cruiser seat creaking under his weight, and looked back through the windshield at the stopped car. In the passenger seat, the man was still gesturing impatiently, mouthing words. Davis took a steadying breath, set his jaw, and opened the door to return to the vehicle. Trooper Davis walked back toward the sedan, his stride deliberate, his shoulders squared in a way they hadn't been a minute before.
Kevin saw him coming and raised his voice. Took you long enough. Did you have to call in the National Guard?
His walk was different. Official. Not the usual traffic stop swagger.
He stopped a pace from her door, as if unsure how close he was permitted to stand.
Well, spit it out. We haven't got all night.
Ma'am, I need to apologize for the delay.
Apologize? That wasn't protocol. She studied his stance, rigid, almost at attention.
The red and blue lights carved sharp shadows across the asphalt as the trooper drew a breath.
Apologize? For what? She's the one making up stories about being some kind of soldier.
Rebecca held the trooper's mirrored gaze, and for a heartbeat, the world outside the car went silent. Davis placed the license back in Rebecca's open palm, his fingers steady as if handling classified material.
Ghost 6, my apologies. I didn't realize you were in the vehicle. The brake light is a non-issue. You are free to go.
Then he stepped back, heels clicking together, and brought his hand up in a crisp salute that seemed to silence the entire highway.
So he knew. She inclined her head, the smallest acknowledgement she had given anyone in years.
Do you require an escort to the state line, ma'am? I can have a unit here in 3 minutes.
No, but thank you, Trooper. That won't be necessary.
Kevin's mouth opened and closed without producing a sound. His face had gone the color of curdled milk.
You saluted her? For a busted taillight? This is insane.
Rebecca didn't answer. She simply watched the road ahead, her world already miles from his.
You are joking, right? This is some kind of prank. You paid off a cop.
Trooper Davis did not smile. His jaw tightened, and the night seemed to grow colder.
Sir, I don't joke about this. I suggest you keep quiet.
But she's a nobody. She's been lying about.
That nobody is the highest cleared person to ever sit in this car. Be quiet or I'll cite you for interfering.
Kevin's mouth closed with an audible click. All the arrogance drained out of him.
For the first time in months, Kevin had nothing to say. She savored the silence.
Davis stepped back and waited, his posture still rigid with respect, as if awaiting dismissal.
Ma'am, I'll clear the road behind you. Have a safe drive home.
Rebecca shifted into gear, and the sedan rolled onto the dark highway, Kevin's silence filling the cabin like smoke. The trooper gave one final nod before turning toward his SUV, the patrol lights still throwing scarlet across the asphalt.
What the hell was that? How did you do that?
She could feel his panic curdling into anger, but she kept her eyes on the center line.
Answer me, Rebecca. That cop saluted you like you are some kind of general. Explain it.
The dashboard lights cast a cold glow on his frantic face. For the first time, he wasn't smirking. He was afraid.
I am your fiancé. I deserve to know. Is any of it true?
Rebecca turned onto the interstate and pressed the accelerator, the engine rising under the dark canopy of stars. Kevin stared at her profile, waiting. The silence stretched for miles, heavy and absolute.
Let him sit with the uncertainty. She had lived with it for years.
An hour later, the only sound was the hum of the tires on asphalt. Neither had spoken. As the miles passed, Rebecca's mind drifted to a dusty compound 6 years ago, where a one-eyed general had pinned a black insignia to her collar.
They called her Ghost 6 because she could walk into a room of hostiles and leave without a sound or a trace. That night had earned her the respect of people who didn't salute for show, and Kevin had laughed at it like a child's pretend game.
She had never told Kevin the full story, and she realized now she never would. The memory settled into her bones, cold and clarifying. Rebecca made a silent promise. She would not marry a man who needed a stranger to prove she was real.
Something had shifted behind her eyes. For the first time, he wasn't sure she'd say yes at the altar.
The city skyline rose in the windshield. 10 minutes from home, each mile a countdown. Rebecca signaled for the exit, her hands steady on the wheel. Beside her, Kevin hadn't moved in an hour. The sedan rolled into the driveway, and the house stood dark and still, as if holding its breath. Rebecca killed the engine and stepped out. The night air felt clean and final.
Rebecca, please, talk to me. I just want to understand.
She walked toward the front door without looking back, the dog tags clinking softly under her collar. Kevin followed. His footsteps hurried on the gravel, a desperate scramble. Inside, she flicked on the kitchen light and stood by the counter, her back a straight line.
You can't just shut me out. I am not the enemy, Rebecca.
No, you are not the enemy. You are just someone I can't trust anymore.
She didn't turn. The silence in that room was heavier than anything he'd said all weekend. Kevin remained in the doorway, the weight of his mistakes finally settling into his bones. Rebecca drew the engagement ring from her finger, the motion practiced and unhurried, a habit of finality. The diamond caught the light one last time before she laid it on the granite. the sound echoing in the quiet kitchen.
What are you doing? Rebecca, that's our ring. You can't just throw it away.
This was the moment she had dreaded and welcomed. The end of a lie.
I know I messed up. I was an idiot. Please, give me a chance to make it right.
He still thought this was a negotiation, that words could rewind the weekend.
She didn't answer. Instead, she let the silence speak for her, the space between them filling with everything unsaid.
Say something. Anything.
The ring remained on the counter, a boundary neither was willing to cross, the diamond still catching the overhead light.
I won't marry a man who needed a stranger to prove I was real.
Kevin's face crumpled, then hardened with a desperate defiance.
It was a joke, Rebecca. A stupid joke. You can't throw us away over that.
She held up a hand, and the gesture alone stopped his advance as surely as a drawn weapon.
You spent an entire weekend making me small. That's not a joke. That's a verdict.
I didn't know. How was I supposed to know?
Her voice didn't rise, but it filled the room.
You were never supposed to know. You were supposed to trust me.
Kevin opened his mouth, but no words came. For the second time that night, he was silenced by the truth. Rebecca lowered her hand, her fingers brushing the cold countertop. The argument was over. Without hesitation, she strode to the sedan, yanked the driver's door open, and slipped inside.
Rebecca, wait, please, don't do this.
She didn't slow. She swung into the driver's seat and pulled the door shut with a final, hollow thud.
I'll change. I'll do anything. Don't leave like this.
Behind the wheel, she didn't glance at the porch. Her hands found the ignition out of muscle memory.
You can't just walk away. We're engaged.
The engine turned over with a quiet hum, and the headlights swept across the darkened house, catching Kevin's frozen silhouette.
Rebecca!
Without looking back, she pulled out of the driveway, the tires crunching on the gravel as the sedan rolled toward the street. Kevin stood alone on the porch, his outstretched hand falling slowly to his side, the night swallowing the sound of the engine. Kevin stayed frozen on the porch long after the taillights dissolved into the dark, his arms still extended toward nothing. A cold breeze snapped him out of his trance, and he stumbled backward through the doorway into the hollow house. The kitchen light was still on, the ring sitting on the counter where she had left it, the diamond winking in the silence.
It was still warm from her finger. He could almost feel her standing there.
His hand trembled as he reached toward it, but he stopped short, as if touching it would make the loss real.
Every smirk at dinner, every she lies a lot, it played on a loop now, sharp and merciless.
The silence in the house was heavier than the trooper's rebuke, a crushing weight of his own making.
He'd needed a stranger to show him she was real. That truth was a stone in his throat.
He finally picked up the ring, the cold metal biting into his palm, a mockery of everything he had thrown away. And in that hollow kitchen, with only his reflection for company, Kevin Donovan faced the man he had become. Rebecca drove without a destination, the sedan gliding over the dark asphalt as if the road itself was pulling her forward.
She hadn't felt this light in years. The weight on her chest had dissolved the moment she turned the key.
In the rear view, the dog tags swung gently with each turn, a metronome for the rhythm of release.
Ghost 6. The trooper's voice still echoed. Not a joke, not a lie. Hers.
She had spent a weekend defending a call sign to people who had never earned one.
No more. She would never shrink herself to fit Kevin's smallness again.
The highway opened before her, empty and infinite, the white dashed lines blurring into a steady stream of promise. She didn't know where she was going yet, and for the first time in years, that uncertainty felt like freedom. The headlights cut through the dark, and she kept driving, the past receding in the mirrors. Behind her, only the faint glow of a town she'd never call home again. Ahead, a road that belonged entirely to her, the image of Trooper Davis snapping that salute replayed behind her eyes, the click of his heels still sharp in her memory.
Ghost 6. A call sign earned in silence and sealed in blood, not a decoration to parade.
They had laughed at her call sign as if it were a costume, but it was carved into her bones long before Kevin owned a suit.
Some things are given, others are earned. He never understood the difference.
The highway stretched ahead, and with each mile the weight of Kevin's mockery dissipated, replaced by something quieter and far heavier: identity.
For years, she'd hidden Ghost 6 to keep the peace. Now she wore it like armor.
The trooper hadn't just apologized. He had restored a piece of her that Kevin's laughter had tried to chip away.
That salute had ended an engagement, but it had also returned something she'd nearly forgotten: her own name.
She pressed the accelerator, the engine humming, and left behind the version of herself that needed permission to exist.
Ghost 6 was never a stranger's discovery. It was a reminder she'd almost let slip away.
Kevin was still on the porch, sitting on the cold steps, the ring clutched in his fist. The house behind him was dark, every light extinguished except the faint glow from the kitchen where the ring had been.
She was really gone. The engine noise had faded, and all that remained was a suffocating quiet. He'd spent a weekend mocking her, and now he was the joke.
He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head sinking into his hands, the ring's diamond pressing into his palm. The image of Trooper Davis saluting her wouldn't leave him. It was burned there now, a permanent accusation.
Highest cleared person in this car. Those words felt like a branding iron.
He had demanded proof, and the universe had delivered it with a salute that shattered his ego. Kevin didn't know how long he sat there, but when he finally looked up, the horizon had begun to pale with the first hint of dawn, and in that gray light, the empty driveway looked like a verdict he would never outrun. On the empty interstate miles away, Rebecca's sedan became a pair of red taillights against the dark, a small shape claiming its place. She drove without a backward glance, not toward a new city, but toward a life where her worth was a fact, not a debate. The trooper's salute had been a spark, but the fire was hers, ignited years ago in quieter, harder places. For 19 years, her family had mistaken her silence for emptiness, her composure for weakness. Now they knew. Not because she had shouted, but because a stranger with a badge had spoken the truth she no longer felt obliged to prove. Kevin would sit with the ring and the ruin, a lesson carved into the granite countertop. But that was his story now, not hers. Some call signs are earned in firefights. Others are earned by walking away when staying would have cost everything. Rebecca Cole, Ghost 6, drove into the morning with the dog tags warm against her skin and a full tank of gas. She didn't need an escort, and she didn't need an apology. She only needed the road, and in the quiet hum of the engine, there was no regret, only the certainty that the best chapters begin when you stop letting others write your name. The sky above the house turned from gray to gold, striping the porch where Kevin remained immobile, the ring still clamped in his cold fingers. He had not moved for hours. The driveway was a blank canvas of gravel, its emptiness a permanent exhibit of his failure. Inside, the kitchen counter was bare. No ring, no note, only the faint outline where the diamond had rested, a ghost of a promise. He had placed the ring back on the counter once, then picked it up again, unwilling to let the symbol go even as the meaning had vanished. The trooper's words looped in his mind. Highest cleared, not a criminal, not a liar, a woman he had refused to see. Meanwhile, Rebecca's sedan crossed into the next state, the sun fully above the horizon, a bright coin on an empty road. The dog tags swayed gently, each movement a soft confirmation. She was exactly who she had always been, no validation required. The patrol car's flashing lights were a distant memory now, eclipsed by the steady glow of a new morning and a full tank of resolve. She thought of the trooper's salute one last time, not as a vindication, but as a reminder that even strangers could see what her own family had refused. And in that brilliant solitude, Rebecca Cole, Ghost 6, drove forward, no longer needing anyone to stand down, because she was already standing up. As the sun climbed higher, Kevin finally pushed himself off the steps, the the stiffness in his legs a minor echo of the numbness in his chest. He walked inside, the ring still in his hand, and set it on the counter next to a blank notepad, a gesture without audience, a surrender without witnesses. The house settled into silence, the weight of her absence now a permanent resident in every room. He didn't cry, he just stood there, the morning light slanting through the kitchen window and illuminating nothing but dust. On the highway, Rebecca rolled down the window an inch, letting the rush of air stir the dog tags against her collar. She thought of the trooper's voice again, not the words, but the conviction behind them, a stranger's belief that had shattered a fiancé's doubt. The call sign, Ghost 6, was no longer a secret to protect. It was a flag to unfurl, a name to answer to without flinching. She didn't need Kevin's apology anymore. She didn't need his family's acceptance. The only person she needed to reconcile with was the woman in the rearview mirror. And, looking at her reflection now, dog tags catching the sun, she saw not a victim of mockery, but a veteran of countless invisible battles. A green highway sign appeared, marking a county line. She smiled, just slightly, and pressed the accelerator. The road stretched on, and she was exactly where she was meant to be. The road unwound beneath her tires like a ribbon of promise, each mile peeling away the layers of doubt Kevin had wrapped around her. She thought of the trooper's voice, not the words, but the certainty in them. A stranger had seen what her own family had refused. For years, she had hidden Ghost 6 to keep the peace. Now, she wore it openly, like a medal pinned on the inside of her skin.
Ghost 6. Stand down. Number, Ghost 6. Standing up. That's what it should have been.
The highway stretched ahead, empty and golden, and she drove with the window cracked, the wind rustling the dog tags against her flannel. She didn't need an escort. She didn't need an apology. The only validation she required was the hum of the engine and the road beneath her. In the rear view, the past was a shrinking dot, but the future was wide and uncluttered, a blank slate she would write herself. As the sun climbed higher, Rebecca Cole, call sign Ghost 6, finally stopped running from who she was and started driving toward who she could be. The trooper's salute would remain a bookmark, not the story. The story was hers, and it had only just begun. And in the quiet rhythm of the road, she understood at last that the loudest truths are often spoken by strangers, and the quietest strengths are too often mistaken for silence. The miles passed like pages turning, each one drawing her farther from the life she had tolerated and closer to the life she had earned. She thought of the trooper's salute one final time, not as a climax, but as the first domino in a chain of self-recognition.
Ghost 6 wasn't just a call sign. It was the part of her that had survived everything Kevin couldn't see.
The road curved, but she held the wheels steady, the future a bright line on the asphalt that asked no questions and demanded no explanations. She didn't know exactly where the road led, but for the first time in years, she wasn't looking for a destination. She was enjoying the drive. Rebecca Cole had once been a woman who needed a stranger to validate her. Now she was a woman who needed no one. The sun continued its climb, and the sedan continued its journey, two bodies moving forward in perfect, quiet synchrony. Behind her, the ghosts of the past faded into the horizon. Ahead, the road was open, and it was all hers. Some stories end with a wedding. This one began with a salute, and in that moment, Rebecca became the author of her own. The engine hummed, the tags swung, and Ghost 6 drove on, no longer a shadow, but a woman fully, finally standing in the light.